G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another L.A.B golf video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to get started with a L.A.B putter, what you should be doing to maximize your potential and to maximize your chances to hole putts with your L.A.B. Now, first off, I'm going to be very realistic with you. Getting a L.A.B putter, it is not a silver bullet. Buying one of these things doesn't mean you're going to automatically start draining every 30 footer you look at. There are stories online where people say, I got a L.A.B and now I cannot miss, I'm making every putt. These people are going to be few and far between. I think they are going to be out there. However, for me, having a more realistic approach or a more realistic view of what to expect when you first get your L.A.B is definitely going to set you up for success long term with this putter. So if you're like me, owning a L.A.B, it was kind of like a journey. When you first get your L.A.B, these putters for me, it's kind of like a journey. And it did take me 3 weeks of solid work. Like I'm talking about grinding every day after work on my putting mat, on my putting mirror, grinding and really figuring out about the putting stroke and about this putter and the technology. This putter was unlike anything I'd ever used before, and the technology that goes into it where it keeps the face square to your actual arc of your stroke, to the lie, it was so different, and it did take me a while to get used to it. When I first got it, I was consistently missing every single putt left. I could not stop pulling the golf ball, and it was really frustrating. But what I ultimately came to the realization with is that if I'm missing it left every single time, then it's consistent. Yes, I'm missing it left. However, it is consistent. So I went down this rabbit hole. I ended up filming my stroke. And what I realized was with my conventional putter, I was actually cutting across the golf ball. And so I'd gotten so used to manipulating my old TaylorMade Spider and really closing the face through impact and trying to pull the ball back online that when I did that with my L.A.B, I was missing everything left. And so what I personally had to do was to actually relearn how to hit a putt with a more neutral stroke. But what I did get straight away was consistency. Whereas before the L.A.B putter, I had a two-way miss. I was missing the putt right, I was missing the putt left. When I first switched to this L.A.B, I was consistently pulling every putt to the left. It's not a bad thing. It is very frustrating. It's not a bad thing, because generally if you have a consistent miss, it's only going to take one thing to fix it, and then you're going to be launching the ball down your intended target line. So although it's frustrating having that singular miss, it actually is a good thing. So if you are struggling with your putting stroke with the L.A.B, get someone to film your putting stroke from like a worm's eye view and just see how neutral your stroke is. For me, it wasn't my alignment, and I'll talk about alignment in a second. For me, it was actually my physical stroke, and that's where it did take me about 3 weeks to groove in my new stroke, where it felt like I was going way inside. Realistically, I was taking it slightly inside on a slight arc, which is what I want. Okay, now let's talk about the most common mistakes when people first get their L.A.Bs and why they struggle with them. So first up is alignment. Alignment is huge with these putters, and the reason for that is because you cannot manipulate these putters, or the technology is going to be working against you with these putters if you want to, say, aim right or left and then pull or push your ball online. These putters are going to be fighting against you with everything they have. So if you've got someone who tends to aim right and then pulls their putts back online, going to a L.A.B putter, they're going to have to change their alignment. They're going to have to work on their alignment and neutralize their alignment so this technology can actually work. What's going to happen when they go to a L.A.B, if they're aiming everything right, they're going to start missing everything right, because these putters are going to be fighting against you to not allow you to pull the ball back online. So alignment with the L.A.B putter is key. It is absolutely key. And if your alignment's bad, you're not actually aiming at the hole or where you want to go, then you will forever struggle with a L.A.B putter. Now, if you get the link, apparently you can manipulate that a little bit, because the technology in that putter isn't as dominant as in, say, the DF3 or the DF2, but alignment with these putters is absolute key. If you set up to this golf ball and you're aiming right and trying to pull the ball back online, you are always going to struggle with these putters. The key with them is to neutralize your setup, aim the club face nice and square down your intended line, have a nice neutral setup where your shoulders, hips, feet, and everything's in line, and then have a neutral stroke. And let the technology work for you. If you try and fight this technology, you are going to lose. And ultimately, you're just going to get rid of it because you're not going to be able to pull it or push it back online. So that brings us on to point 2 is this putter, it wants to actually stay square to the arc of your stroke. So it's not going to stay square to the target. A lot of people think these putters, they stay square to the target. They don't stay square to the target. To do that, you'd have to have the shaft vertically at 90 degrees, the putter head, the actual lie angle, so then you could actually have something that went straight back and straight through, and the face then would point towards the target. These are lie angle balanced, so depending on how much lie you have, your lie angle is going to influence how much you arc the putter. So for me, this one is a 71 degree lie angle, which means I am going to have a slight arc in my stroke. This putter is going to want to stay square to that lie angle and to the arc of your stroke. So in reference to the hole, it will actually open in reference to the hole and it'll close in reference to the hole, but it's going to stay square to the actual lie angle of the putter. So what does that mean when you're actually using it? What it means is you need to have a lighter grip pressure. You cannot grip this thing really hard and you cannot fight to try and control the face. You need to let the technology do what it was designed to do. So when I set up to this ball, I'm going to put the actual putter down. I'm going to get it aligned. Then I'm going to step into the actual golf ball. I'm going to make sure everything's aligned. I'm still not gripping the putter. And then I'm going to grip the putter gently with my hands and just let the putter just sit on the ground. As soon as you get a L.A.B putter and it's fit to you correctly, as soon as you just let it sit on the ground, it's going to find square. It's going to find square to your line. And then all you've got to do is grip really lightly on the grip and just let the technology do its thing. And it will. Now, a good drill you can do as well, and I've shown this off in countless other videos, is the thumbs off drill. So I'll do the same thing. I'll put my putter down on the ground. I'll let it sit square all by itself. I'll find where I want to set up, make sure everything's square. I'll grip the putter, and then what I'm going to do before I pull the trigger is I'm going to take my thumbs off the grip. So both of my thumbs now are off the grip, and I'll bring that closer to the camera so you can see. So I'm cradling the putter in my fingers and my thumbs are off the grip. What you'll find when you do this is that you are not going to be able to manipulate that face anywhere near as much as if your thumbs were actually on the grip. So we'll hit a putt, and what you'll find is, I mean, the horizontal launch angle there, 0.0. So you are letting the technology do its thing when you do that thumbs off drill. I cannot recommend that drill enough. It is going to really show you and highlight the importance of having a really soft grip and not trying to fight the technology that is built into this putter. Okay, the next tip, don't make drastic changes to your putting setup. And what I mean by that is these putters, when you get them, they're fit to your setup. And so if you then, after you're fit for your setup, go and dramatically change your setup, then the putter's not going to be fit to you anymore. The biggest thing with these putters is to get the lie angle correct. And you cannot change the lie angle of these putters once you get them. The actual lie angle and also the loft is designated by the hole that they drill into the actual head. So unlike other putters that have, you know, a plumber's neck or anything like that, you cannot bend the shaft. You cannot bend it. You cannot adjust these putters. So what you get is what you're set with in terms of the lie and the loft. You can change other things like weight, etc. But for the lie and the loft, you need to get that done when you buy this putter. So if I'm going to fit someone to one of these putters, or if I'm going to go get fit for one of these putters, what I'm going to ensure is I'm going to really pay attention to where my eyes are in reference over the golf ball. So what I like to see in my own putting is when I'm setting up to the golf ball, my eye line, I want to have over the golf ball or just inside the golf ball. You don't want to be too far away, because if you're too far away, your hands are going to be lower and you're going to end up having a lot more of an arc to your stroke. Now, if you do putt like this naturally and that's just how you putt, then that's fine. You can get fit and you can putt like that. But what I will say is if you get fit like that and that's the way you putt, do not then change your putting setup once you get your putter. So if you're someone who gets set up really far away, has low hands, and gets fit for a really flat putter, we're talking 60, 61 degrees, do not then all of a sudden go, I'm going to actually get my eyes over the golf ball and set up a lot closer, because what your putter is going to end up looking like on the ground is the heel is going to be so far off the ground and the lie angle is not going to be correct. So be very diligent about your setup before getting one of these putters. What I personally do is I use a putting mirror, and I use a putting mirror every week. I go on my putting mirror and I make sure my setup's in check. The things I'm looking for is my eye line over the ball, and then I'm also focusing a lot on my shoulders, because for me, when my putting gets bad, it's because my shoulders tend to get open to the target line. And when I do that, again, I start missing them left. Let's now talk about ball position. So ball position is another one that's very important. And if you don't get this right, you're not going to get the optimal roll on the golf ball. So with your L.A.B putters, we know that the actual shaft goes into the head behind the actual face of the putter. So you've got about an inch there from the face to the actual shaft where it goes into the head. A good general rule of thumb is you want the middle, that actual shaft, you want the tip of that shaft to be in the middle of your stance. Not the golf ball, the actual tip of the shaft. What I like to do is I actually play it a bit more forward. I like having the golf ball a bit further forward, because what that encourages is it really encourages me to hit up on the golf ball and get the golf ball rolling end over end quicker. As soon as the golf ball starts moving back in your stance, you're going to dynamically be creating more spin loft with your putter, which sounds fancy, but all you're doing is encouraging the ball to jump and then spin a bit more. And what that ultimately leads to is skid and roll. So if you've ever putt on a golf green in the morning where the green is wet and you can see your ball jump and skip before it ultimately starts out rolling, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about skid and roll. By putting the golf ball more forward in your stance, what you're encouraging is the ball to lift off the surface and then start rolling end over end as soon as possible. So you're reducing that skid and roll time. So when I set up to this putter, again, I put the golf ball forward in my stance, and I mean, it's quite forward, to be honest. It's probably where you'd play like a 3-iron. The actual tip of the shaft is where you'd play about a 7-iron. So I do play it quite far forward. With that though, you've got to be careful, because if you start moving your golf ball further and further forward, what that ultimately gets you doing with your shoulders is you start reaching for the ball. So your shoulders get really open. So be aware that yes, you want to play the ball forward in your stance, but you don't want to do it at the detriment of your alignment. So be very conscious of your alignment. For me, what I found is that I struggle with my shoulders anyway getting open. And so about a year and a half ago, I went to a left-hand low grip, and that just squares up my shoulders. As soon as I set up with my left-hand low, my shoulders are perfectly square, and it gets me in that nice neutral position to hit the golf ball and get it rolling down the target line. So be careful with ball position, because what that's going to lead to is ultimately your shoulder line potentially getting a little bit out of alignment. And what that does is encourage you to hit a bit more across the ball and cut across it. The final thing I'll say is record your stroke. Once you've got your setup position good, your alignment's good, you've got your ball position set, put your phone behind your putting stroke. Have a look at your actual putting stroke. It will be eye-opening. For me, it was. I didn't realize that I was taking it so far outside and cutting across the ball. So definitely film your stroke. You don't need to do it all the time. Just do it once every few days just to make sure you're on the right track. Now that I'm actually happy with the arc of my stroke, I rarely film my putting stroke. If I really start putting bad, then yeah, I might go film it. But other than that, there's no requirement to. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that helps you with your putting. If you did enjoy that, please sub to the channel, like this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.